I think I'm live. I should be live. Checking the microphone. Click here when live. Okay. Yeah, let me know if you're in the chat, if you see me well, if you hear me well. You know the drill, guys. This is the first live of the OWP 2023 brand new masterclass. When we brought to challenge, guys. I'm super pumped. I'm seeing so many great sketches already in the tribe. Tonight for me, it is 10 p.m. For me, guys. I'm super happy to be here. I still have a ton of energy. What I'll do is I'll give a little bit more tips about sketching. And if you are in the chat, let me know where you are in the world, what time it is. It's always exciting to see everybody and see all the different time zones. So I'm seeing already. I'll get closer so I can read it. Dawn. Don't get LinkedIn. That's quite a name. Nausis, Misty, Multiga, Paintables in the house, Carol Lay, Shiny, Black Fox Art. Hello guys, Kevin, Illuminatio. Okay, guys, I can clearly not read from that distance. It's so tiny on my screen, but I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'll try to be able to get that closer a little bit so I can read it later. There you go, guys. I'm seeing some time zone coming in. Shashin says 6 p.m. here in Kenya. Lakin says 11 a.m. 11 a.m. 11 a.m. So I'm assuming a few of you guys are on the East Coast of America. I'm myself in Thailand right now. Madagascar. That's great, guys. A lot of you guys. All right, cool. I'm hoping that you're having a ton of fun doing the challenge. I'm hoping that you like the new class. What I'll be doing today is give you a few more tips on how to sketch, but also how to push a little bit the sketching. I took a few artwork that I saw in the community. I'm going to do some paintovers. I want to clarify some things that I saw. Most of you guys did such an amazing job. I want to make sure that everybody that is struggling right now has a little bit more knowledge of it all. And I'll have a Q&A if you have any question whatsoever. We'll have another live like this one on Thursday, where we'll talk about rendering. And the rendering will open on Wednesday. Then the day after, Thursday, we'll have the live, and we will have another one on Saturday and another one on Sunday. Matter of fact, I'm going to start sharing my screen here because I want to talk about this one. So on Sunday, I'm going to do the artist guide to surviving a busy schedule. This is a course itself in a way. I'm going to give tips on, especially for those of you guys that really want to paint more and have just a few hours a week to spare, how you can make the maximum of this time. I'm going to have tips for you. I'm going to have structures. I'm going to have example of how to build your schedule, all of this. This is coming on Sunday. If you don't want to miss it, two ways. Put in your agenda, but also there is a link in the description of this live right now. Click on it simply and just make sure to reserve the link somewhere. I'll be at the same time on Sunday, and I'll remind you of that a few more times so you don't miss it. Let's jump right in. I'm going to start giving a few tips, and as I go, if you have any questions, put a capital Q in front of it. It's always easier for me to read in the chat, and I'll be able to answer your question, guys. And hopefully all the gear and the tech will go well today. So this is the work of Willem. Willem, thank you so much for sharing your work. I'm happy that I'm able to give you some tips tonight. Willem, you did something here that I wanted to point out. You did something good. First of all, your sketch is going in the right way, I think, but you started with the wrong perspective, but then you corrected this perspective. And I want to point that so everybody can see it. Just create a new layer here. So looking at your portrait, clearly the line for your eyebrows, the line for your eyebrows goes about the direction. And then, if you go to the side of the face here, you have a straight down. That means that in this portrait in particular, I think the perspective is like in front. So we have kind of a 3D that we're kind of seeing inside the box. It's kind of this. So your perspective here was kind of wrong. You see, because this line here is not correct. But then you corrected that. So I just wanted to remind you and remind everybody else at the same time. See, this is correct. This is not. That you want to make sure to just take your time to make the box. It's on the picture that you want to do it. Just make sure that you see it from eyebrows to the ear. This is going to help you a lot. And I saw another student doing the same kind of mistake. So quickly, here I have the work of B. Ray. B. Ray, thank you so much for sharing your work with me. You did the same thing at a few places, especially the one at the bottom here, where you can see, I'll create a new layer, where you can see that you have your eyebrows in that kind of direction. And then it's supposed to kind of do like almost like a straight line, really. But then you had that perspective, which is 100% wrong. You kind of sort of corrected it here, but you can look at your here. You have your line here. Maybe take another color so you guys can see it better. You kind of have the line here, but that's just not correct. If you're looking at your eyebrows, they're supposed to be there, and then you have your ear. So you place your ear at the right place kind of thing, but then you have your side on the wrong path. And you had that on at least two that I remember, like this one here. You see that your eyebrows are straight, and then it goes down. It goes at least a little down. You don't see the top view like this. So very important to understand just the basic perspective here. And really all you have to do is do the eyebrows, then do the eyebrows toward the ear, and then finish your box. And that's going to give you the basic perspective. If you're struggling with perspective, there is courses in the DPA, but also for basic perspective like this. You'll find plenty of those online. Just understanding the basic perspective to be able to do a cube will help you here. All right. Let's move that away. So if you have any question about this, let me know. But I'm going to assume that this is pretty clear. The other thing I wanted to talk about here, I have the beautiful work of Igia. Igia, thank you so much for sharing your work. Igia, you did a good job. Here, I want to talk about how to change like the shapes of things ever so slightly to make a huge difference. There's a few things here that are not working, and they are so subtle that sometimes our eyes are just glazing over our artwork and we don't see it. So I want to point them out here because I think it will help a lot of people. So when you finish your sketch like Igia did here, you want to start correcting things by double checking the shapes of things. So if I'm making like a few lines over the picture here, see this this shape here. This shape here. See like how the shape is completely different here? And so these tiny details, when you correct them, they make a huge difference. So let me see if I'm able to, I don't know if I would risk it. I'm just gonna repaint it. I don't wanna do liquify just in case the computer doesn't take it. This is the first time that I'm doing a live with my big Huion tablet. Thank you, Huion, for all these prices that we have for this challenge. I hope you guys are excited. We have amazing tablets on top of entries to the DPA. But anyhow, I'll have to say that I didn't test with the liquify earlier. So just having like the right shape here to kind of push your eyebrow higher is really going to help to understand the gestural of it all. I think the one here is perfect. There was also your eye here. Like your eyes are very close to be like perfect, but it feels like, you feel like there's like, let me just kind of, let's take this here and delete it. You feel like your eye, like there's kind of like a, oops, I'll take another color. Like there's like kind of shape like this and then like kind of shape like this kind of thing. They're not completely straight. And I think these kind of tiny differences in the shape sometimes make a huge difference. So let's try to just modify that a little bit. And just kind of, I'm going to modify just the bottom eyelid to kind of point into the right direction, a little bit lower basically. And then I'll do kind of the same thing. I think this one is kind of good enough. I think the angle is good enough. I think it was really just the one at the left that just needed a little bit. Just gonna fill that up here. Just a little bit. Your iris here is bigger also, that I just realized. Your iris is bigger than the one on the other side. So let's make this one bigger. And I feel like, well, I could correct a few more things, but I think overall it's good. Overall it's pretty good. Maybe now this one is just kind of too big. It should point just a little bit more in that direction, kind of thing. Something like that. Anyhow, all that to say that sometimes you just have to double check kind of the shapes. Like you put a line here, and that could be like a line that came from like earlier when you were doing your sketch, but I feel like this kind of changed the shapes of it all. We have just a line that follows here the eye, and so that's good. We have the same thing here, but we don't have these things here. But anyhow, I think you did a great job here, like I was saying. Really impressed with your lips. This is really good. So just keep it up, really. I'll talk about line work a little bit. So let me just see if you guys have any question before I do so. And I want to start blabbering and forget anybody. Let me just go and scroll. For those that are new to those live that I do from time to time, you'll realize real fast that I cannot do two things at the same time. So it's either I scroll and look for your question or draw or answer them. Kevin, hey Kevin. Is there going to be one more one-way portrait this year? Injured my hand and can't participate this time. Oh, I'm so sorry, man. I don't know yet. I tend to not jump steps. For now, we have this one. We'll have probably something else at the end of the year. I don't know if it's going to be one-way portrait or something else. Question from Daisy. The center line on the face confused me. How do you place it in 3D space? Should it be on the brow and the point of the chin, or does the chin sit slightly in front of the line? Well, the center line, I'm assuming you're talking about this one. The center line, let me put a new layer here. So the center line, you want to imagine that, first of all, like the center line goes over the forehead, the nose, it's center line. And it's hard to sometimes place completely with all the features, because we have the features that, but like the nose that goes higher in perspective and all of that, and basically the perspective itself. So the center line is supposed to kind of, that's why you need to like imagine it. Whoops, what did I do there? Nothing. All right, cool. The center line, you're supposed to imagine it like on a sphere, on a ball, basically. You kind of imagine that it's an elastic, and the elastic is completely centered to it, kind of thing, right? So it's like this in the perspective of the illustration that I have below it. But the face is not a sphere either, right? So there's pieces that are cut and there's pieces that are long. And so you can, at some point, just kind of imagine that there's an angle that goes from the middle of the forehead and then like the chin like that. And you kind of forget the nose, basically. You forget the nose because the nose goes into like in a different perspective, if that makes sense. So that's what you want to do. Imagine first that it kind of curves around the ball, and then it goes straight towards the middle of your chin, and then you'll be able to kind of finish your basic Loomis head this way, which would be around kind of that for this one. Let me know if that helps. I'll take more questions in a second. Let me continue what I had in mind here. So going back on this one, I want to continue working on the work of Igria just a little bit and talk about lines. First of all, I'm going to. I don't want to destroy that work. I'm going to make a copy first. What did I have here? I'm going to copy this and then merge this. together. How did I merge stuff usually? I have that new tool, the Toolbox. I'm still still learning sometimes to work with it. All right, merge that, and I'm going to mask that and take my eraser. All right, so yeah, there we go. So the lines that you have right here are really good, but sometimes you want to kind of have thick and thin to certain places to attract the eyes to a certain places. So I'm going to kind of delete a little bit what you have and just come back with what I believe would be optimal. I'm deleting also your background, but that's just because I don't have your layers. So when it comes to the eyes, it's interesting to have a little bit more of a thick line on the top eyelid where the eyelashes are. Because of the eyelashes, no matter if you have makeup or not, it will always look kind of darker. And the eyelashes on the top eyelid, there's always more than on the bottom one. I have a very stylized way to do it, but I like to usually start with a line on the top and then just nothing at the bottom. And it kind of opens the eye a little bit. It comes with a pinch of salt of my own style, but yeah, I guess. So let me just kind of do this. Now I'm missing a little bit more of resolutions here because I don't have the original, but that should be fine. So that's one thing that I like to do, is to kind of just emphasis on that top one and just kind of more or less, and then kind of leave a little bit more of a almost like no lines at the bottom. If I put lines there, it would be like very pale, which for now I won't put just for the sake of this presentation. When you're doing your eyelashes, I know you did like a lot of small lines. It's fine, but truly, if you want to have something a little bit more stylized, focusing on those triangles will really help you. You don't have to put so many. And to me, at the very least, I just feel like it creates something just easy to read and kind of easier. But that's a little bit of stylization. When it comes to the lines, I want to continue here. I want to go to your lips, trying to have, I'll try to move that around. Maybe I can close it actually. Trying to have that around, I think sometimes just less is more. You have a little bit of space for your lips here, so you can kind of have that. And then just kind of, yeah, just having the dots at the end. You'll need your line at the bottom to kind of establish that occlusion shadows that goes there. And then just at a few places. Now, because your lip is turning, that's what I was saying in the video. When you have a lip that is frontal, then what I just did is all you need. When you have a lip that turns a little bit, then you will want to have one corner of the lip, the one that it's further away from you in perspective, that is a little bit more sharp, just to make people understand that it stops there. So I won't touch here, but I will kind of have a little bit more of a corner here. And then just a little bit more of that corner there as well. But even that, I think it's too much. For me, I would probably just kind of put down a little bit more transparency. Then when it comes to the line work here, I think you already had something pretty good, where you want to just kind of have like a little bit more thickness where the shadow will be, which will be at the bottom here. So having just that a little bit more dark. That was good. From the fold of the eyelid, I would go just with something a bit more pale. And then instead of having necessarily like, I saw someone in the tribe, by the way, don't remember the name, but whoever it is, if you remember that it's you did an amazing job. You did exactly that. You didn't put the entire line over the nose. You kind of just had here in between where your eyes are, and you had just put lines where your nose was, like your nostrils and stuff. And I thought that was just genius. That was just really well done. One thing I would say, pay attention to the different mini shapes as well. I'm looking at the nostril here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this nostril, it goes thick here, thin here, right? So here you had kind of the opposite. I know we cannot see it because it painted over it, but it should be like thin at the beginning and then thicker here kind of thing. And so having just this will already make some good changes. And I won't finish more than that. I just wanted to show you how you can just really simplify your lines to attract the eye exactly where you want, especially if you're doing something like adding colors that we will do tomorrow. This will help tremendously. But for the rest, you did such a great job. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to comment on it. The last one that I'll do is a word from Natalia. I'll be talking about how to add volume. But before I do that, let me just go in the chat and see if there's more questions, guys. And thanks for everybody that's joining me live. Like I said, I will be doing that on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday as well. Cynthia says, what brush do you recommend for nice, clean lines for the final sketch? Within the kit that I provided, there's one, the one that I'm using right now. Let me see if I can create a new layer on top of everything here. And it's a triangular brush that I created. I really like this one. I think anything that has a little bit of transparency that goes from small to thick, depending on how much pressure you put. But my professional opinion is it depends on the tablet that you have. It depends on the sensitivity of the tablet. It depends on your own understanding of your force and how you, there's so many things. One brush that I give you might act differently on your tablet, might act differently on your software, might also may act differently based on if you have the same tablet and the same software, just on the way you use it, right? So it's more about what tablet makes you feel good. For sure, you can use mine, but I think it's a question of like, it's going to take a little bit more time for you to just experiment with some of them. I tried so many, like one for like sketching. I tried the ones that look like HB pen. I tried the ones that look like this one that are just a little bit more, I'd say like a little brush really. And I change in time. I think it changed with time. It changed with your style. So all that to say that there's not one answer to this question. Where's my arrow? There we go. Illuminatio says, what do you think about using AI image for reference? I like to paint a female version, male actor, but like the skills, make the changes. I won't blabber about AI too much tonight, but I'll say this. AI has a place in the future, which I don't know how it's going to be, but for sure, the genie's out of the box and it's not going anywhere. We will be all working with AI one way or another. But right now, I have just kind of the bad taste in the mouth of the way the AI came with all the bank of images of artists that were not consulted or paid for building these algorithms. I think there's no problem at having like AI as references for as long as you know what you want. If you want to learn how to paint, don't use AI to do your paintings. If you need reference, like in your case, I don't see why not. Go for it if that's something that interests you. I think it's just kind of knowing. I think what the AI did is now we know the people that just really wanted to, have the easy way to create something that is nice enough, and the people that kind of find their pleasure within actually creating something with the two hands. And it's just two different things. That's my 2 cents about it. You let me know what you think about it. Sakura says, hello beginner here. How do you tell the distance between the nose and the mouth when doing a portrait? It's a great question. I can answer this and then I'll continue here and then I'll take more questions, guys. So when you have the basic Andrew Loomis head, for example, where you have your eyebrow here, that's the eyebrow line that goes on the side. You have your 4 quadrant with your ear in this quadrant, and then you have your center line. So your question precisely was the distance between the nose and the mouth. They are equally distant. So if you decide that your face is like that long, then in the middle of it, you'll have your nose. It's as simple as that. The problem is when you're a beginner, you have a hard time with the different proportions. That's going to take you a little bit of time. But as long as you follow this rule, the precise rule of the Andrew Lumi's head actually is, let me just move that away. Sorry, I got a microphone. Let me know if you guys can hear me well with the microphone a little bit further away. It's going to help you to paint. So usually it's supposed to start with, as you already know, a almost perfect sphere, which is never really perfect. And then you'll have like a slice on the side of the head. This slice is actually supposed to be from the side to side. It's supposed to be in thirds, if I remember correctly. So it's supposed to be from the middle completely. It's supposed to be like 2/3. So 1/3, 3/3, and that would be like another third. And so you have a line that comes here. You have another line that comes here. This one is for the hair. This one is for the nose. And then when you take this space, and have the same space at the bottom, you'll have your chin. And so that's how you know where things are supposed to be. So it's in thirds. Hopefully that answered your question. But to my own experience, knowing exactly how they are takes a little bit of time, just because even if you know that they're perfectly proportionate, you might make them just too long, and then you're going to have to put them a little bit closer, but then you're going to mess up with that rule of having them equally distanced. It's usually what happens. So don't panic. As long as you try to have equally distance between the line of the hair, eyebrow, nose, and chin, you'll be more or less as close as possible as a perfect portrait. All right, let's move on with the work of, I'll create a new layer here. The work of Natalia. And I want to say thank you for sharing your work with me, Natalia. Let's move things around here. So I had 3 sketches, and I wanted to talk about lines, and I want to talk about, whoops, I think I'm going to take this one first to the right. I think this is your final, I think this is your rough sketch, and that was your reference here. And so I think what we have here is a classic example of like you're doing your rough line and it looks organic and there's some gesture and there's some life to it. And then you do your final lines and you start losing that gesture, that feeling of it all. It's also missing in this one in particular structure. So the structure that I wanted you to have with the Lumi's head, with the Riley head that is in the class, I don't see it here. So let's try to first look at your picture real quick. And what do we have? So the size of the face here with the jaw for the Lumi's head. You have like the side view of the head right here kind of thing, more or less. And you have the cranium. And then you have the eyebrow, the nose, the chin, the hairline, and then you have your kind of your here, like a little bit like this. These lines would do marvelous on your final drawing. So matter of fact, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to first take your last line. I'm going to place them over this one. I'm going to put them in transparency. I want to have still your old sketch. Having the two of them is going to add a little bit, and then I'm going to add a top layer, and I'll continue painting on it. So we want to make sure to have these lines. So the jawline here, what you can do is, instead of having just one line like this and having very like rough, you can have cross contour lines that kind of express the contour of the cheek here, just a little bit. And then even like a little bit of lines here, just to give a little bit more that structure that we're needing. Your nose was good. It looks a little flat right now, and that's because you don't have structure to it. You want to think about, at the very least, you can think about the nose as being a ball. And even just a ball like this is going to help to kind of give structure a little bit. Then what you can try is to have, there's a top plane and a bottom plane. So for this, I'm just going to kind of create that bottom plane here. Then you have your nostril kind of thing. And then you have like this kind of as a bottom plane. And she's looking a little bit high, so we're seeing like under the nose. That's why I think it's a difficult angle to have it all. Structure-wise, there's the sides of the nose, right? So we have the nose itself, and then we have the two sides here, and you can have like lines to express this as well. Your eyes, like I said in the previous example, try to have your eyelid at the top with the darkest lines, and try to not put lines like this, but small triangles. Small triangles, small triangles, small triangle, small triangle. It's going to give volume, it's going to give shape. When I say triangle, it's not like equally triangle like this. It's more like a wavy triangle, something like that. And as it goes in perspective around the eye, you come at some point that's going to be in the middle, and then it kind of changes direction, something like that. So that's pretty good. Then you have like, you know, the Andrew Loomis, all the different planes. You have a plane in the middle here that can be established. You have some form here where your eyes are turning that can be established. You have your eyelid, top eyelid. And that's it. What you see, like big and small lines. Very, very important to not have like a thick line here, because then that line attracts the eye. We don't want that line to attract the eye. We want the line to attract the eye over the eye itself. When you have a person with dark eyes also, brown eyes, or just eyes in the shadow, try to have just a little bit of a value in it. It's going to help you to also understand a little bit more what you're looking at. You did a good job by adding a few lines for the bottom eyelid. That's good. And I think that's pretty much. There's already like a little bit more form here that we understand. Obviously, with you practicing the Andrew Loomis technique, see like even this part here, that represents the cheekbone coming in the face. Practicing a little bit more, the Andrew Loomis technique will help you with these, especially also with the Azaro head. Then adding like the ball of the chin here, which will come with your lips, and then having these corners darker, and then the inside of the lips kind of darker as well. And then we can just kind of add a little bit of a cupid bow here, but not complete lines. And that's how I would just add a little bit more structure here, like so this here. I have that there. That's pretty good. Okay, so hopefully this was showing you how I would just add just a little bit more structure to it all. So it feels like this, and this is going to help you a lot when you're going to add some tones later on. For the people that are now joining me before, I just want to remind everybody, on Sunday, I'm going to do a special workshop with you guys, the Artist's Guide to Surviving a Busy Schedule. I know for me, the thing that is helping me the most to have routine in my life is to have more structure when I build kind of the schedule around the few hours that I have to paint. Because even though I'm a full-time artist, I teach a lot. And so teaching is not always part of me as an artist painting. So I need also to schedule time to paint like all of you guys. So on Sunday, I'm going to have you my best trick to how to build my schedule, and also going to talk about the brand new Digital Painting Academy. We have some brand new stuff in there. I'm going to have a lot of fun showing you all of that. Been working on it for the past 6 months with the team, so I'm pretty excited. There's a link in the description. But before we get there, I want to answer more questions. Let me go to the chat here. Thank you so much for everybody that's still with me on this call. Baya says, how to know where to put the line weight? Well, hopefully this helped, but here's some more help. Let me just kind of move on the side here. So there's two ways to put the line weight. You want to put the line weight at A, where you want to attract the eyes. So usually features on a portrait, the eyes, if you put thick line there, you're good to go. That's where you want people to look at, really. But also some features and all of that. But if you have something that's a bit more complicated, where do you put your line weight? You put it on occlusion shadows. So occlusion shadows are those shadows that are stuck in between those two things. Like you can imagine when I put my fingers like this, the in-between line, that's an occlusion shadow. That's where the light cannot penetrate. And so if I make an example, imagine there's a sphere here and it's on the ground and we have this shadow. The occlusion shadow will be the shadow that it goes right here, right in between those two. That's the occlusion shadows. So to think about it this way, if I were to redo this sphere that has, let's say, a lighting in that direction kind of thing, if I were to redo this, I would probably kind of delete what's at the top. Why? Because the light is hitting that. So you want this line to be kind of thinner, and then the one at the bottom, you want it thicker. And so that's how you want to think about it. When it comes to a portrait, there's a few places like this. Let me go kind of continue painting on this to show you an example. Let's turn that. So there is a shadow, a normal shadow that would occur with the eyelid. So that's another reason why putting the eyelid at the top will work, is because there's form there. There's kind of 3D form. And so that's going to create an occlusion, a natural occlusion shadow, and just a shadow in general. There's obviously the nostrils that will get darker, but also the corners of the mouth. This is an occlusion shadow where the lips are touching, especially. You'll have a kind of just a shadow, really, a cast shadow under the lip. All of these kind of things, those are the most prominent. Obviously, the side of the face also will kind of get that. So occlusion shadows and cast shadows, but more or less the direction of the light. And if we're looking at this portrait, the light comes kind of centered side. It's kind of like that. Let me take that again. It's kind of like that, right? Whoops. Pressing the wrong buttons. It's kind of like that, which means that you would have your shadows kind of on this portrait. Like maybe here it would be thicker, maybe here it would be thicker, because there's light here and shadow here kind of thing, right? So that corner for sure. You could put even put some more shadow here to emphasize that, but maybe also this line a little bit more. So all this line here could get a little bit more just because we want to emphasize that the light is on the other side. Same thing with the lips. You could maybe have a little bit more here, but none here, and a little bit more here, but none here. And it's all going to emphasize that the light is going. Same thing here with the jaw. I could just take out this one, for example, and just have this a little bit thicker, and that's gonna kind of make me understand that, you know, it's going from that direction. So that's how you would do that. Let me bring that on this screen so I don't have to go on my other screen. There we go. Rashmeet says, how do you go with hair when it comes to the line art? Is it important to make each strand? No, it is not. Very not important. Matter of fact, especially in this course, the previous course that I had, I was giving like techniques on making like a lot of details. You'll see that I'll definitely go with the details, but a lot less. The idea of hair for me is more about form, shape, and gradients, just splashes of colors, really. So for example, for this, I would not go and draw like tiny threads. It's always a mistake to do this. I think what's already there works. The thing that I would add to this is just think about the form itself. Think about hair like being a hat, really. And so you want to just kind of have, just understanding the form here. So you want to see like what's the top plane. Like in this case, we have kind of like a little bit of a top plane here kind of thing. You have like I'm just going to move this here. We have a little bit like like shadows that come here because they go to have like some form. It's like here, there's another kind of a shadow here. So it's important to kind of understand more things like being 3D shapes than strings of hair. Adding strings of hair, you will do that, add the details. That's the last thing you will do. Right now, it's all about establishing the form. But that's a great question. Let me put it here and use this. Misty says, question, I had trouble getting that little slice by the ear, the Loomis head. I couldn't get it to line up with the ear. Can you show the placement again? Yeah, I can definitely do that again real quick. I think I already did, but more example will help. So let's just say that this is the basic of the Loomis head. Let's delete that. So the Loomis head, theoretically, and that's the thing that I didn't precise in the class, I guess. Like I was saying, it's once you slice the part of the head, you want to look at your perspective, right? The first line will be your eyebrow. Now, if you're looking high or low, this line will go high or will go low, okay? So if I'm looking about the same angle, you're probably going to have something like that. This goes into perspective. You want to think about it like a box, really. That's why I give the example of the box. A box will kind of have the same perspective. And then the top two lines, these represents your eyebrow and the one from the ear. So that's how you do it, really. But if you're having a portrait that, let me delete all of this. If you're having a portrait that is looking higher or lower, that will change tremendously the way this line appears. So if you have a line that, let's say you're looking up, so you have your eyebrows that are looking up, your whole head goes up, your ear will go down like this. And that's just because of the perspective. You want to think about it as really like a box, right? So if you have a box that is kind of like this, but then I rotate that box into that direction, well, the entire thing, or yeah, exactly, like more like that direction, the entire thing will shift, right? So you might have this a little bit more like this, and then this line will turn as well. So that's why it's turning. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's how you do it. And just to give you an example here, if I were to do it with someone looking lower, let's say their eyebrow line is here, then it would be the opposite. Because you'll be able to see the top plane, you know? That's the top plane, basically. So hopefully this is clear. If you have trouble with this, my suggestion is just revise basic perspective, how to make cubes. Make a few cubes, and then imagine that you're redoing the Andrew Loomis in that cube, right? So you can imagine that if I'm making like a cube with this perspective here, and then you can try, that's a great exercise actually. You can try to have an Andrew Loomis head within it. So what would you have? Well, I'm assuming that the eyes will looking a bit like this. We have the side of the face here, and then this. You see that this and this, they follow this and this. Eyes, ear, and then the face would go down like this, and you would have your X here, your jaw here, and yeah, more or less this. You would see the top of the head like this. All right? It's going to be difficult to do it from imagination. Use the 3D model that is in the class to help you with this. But just a few more exercises of going there and doing the box that goes in the same perspective. That's all you need to really unblock this. You guys have good questions. Emily says, is the step for today still sketching? Yes, it is. So this new class is only in 3 steps, but there's 2 days per step. So Monday, Tuesday, sketching, Wednesday, Thursday, rendering, and Friday, Saturday, details. And on Sunday, like I was saying, we're going to have this cool workshop together. Well, we'll talk about something completely different. This time, I want to give you all the tools that you need to do more art in your life. So that's what's happening. Let's see if there's more questions. Amita says, most of the time, the eyes that I draw are bigger than the reference photo, despite my sketch on the painting. It doesn't look weird at the end. Is that a problem? No, it's not a problem. It's actually a good thing. You can do the eyes so many different ways to give different things. Matter of fact, I have a great tutorials that's going to come in the Digital Paint Academy in a few weeks that talks about the differences between male and female. And one of the things is female has usually bigger eyes, but it's not so much they have bigger eyes that their skull is smaller and they have the same size eyes, so they look bigger on their faces. And so it's a very small thing in real life, but when you put it to illustration, if you emphasize that and make it bigger, it makes a clear distinction between female and male. You can make smaller eyes to a male and sharper angles usually, and bigger eyes for a female and rounder angles. So no, it's not a problem. It's just something actually that I wasn't doing that now I'm doing all the time, just because it adds stylization to it. It makes it clear what kind of gender it is that you're painting, and it just looks cuter as well. So no, it's not a problem. Scrolling. If you guys have more questions, let me know. I'll be with you for maybe another 5-10 minutes. This is the presentation I had for today. Like I was saying, tomorrow the rendering is coming. I have great tips on how to add colors and to not lose yourself into rendering. Don't over polish things. I have pretty much the same kind of mentality on every of those steps, where it's like you do the fastest thing that you can do, and then we're going to polish it a little bit more, and you'll see it's going to look a little bit weird tomorrow and on Thursday. Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday, because without the details, it's going to look a little bit blurry. But be sure to not add details. Details come afterwards. And if you follow the steps, I believe you'll have a great portrait at the end. Bitterbond says, I think drawing over reference can help you understand how the eyelid works. After that, you can more or less measure the eyes from this. Yes, absolutely. I love tracing as a tool really to learn. I think, especially if you're a beginner, tracing over your reference to understand the anatomy, to understand the perspective, to understand just the construction of it all is really a good thing. Like, stay away from people that tell you to not trace in that way. If you're tracing all the time, though, you won't be able to learn to paint from imagination. So at some point, you have to let go tracing and move on past that. But at the beginning, it's actually super important. It's a very good stepping stone that I've been using for years when I started, that I'm still using from time to time when I don't understand certain perspective. So definitely a good advice there. Reminding you to put a capital Q. I'm scanning for capital Q. If you didn't put a capital Q, I may have passed over your question. You'll have to put it again. Scrolling. Sunny says, how do I draw correct eye shape? Because somehow mine shape looks different from reference. Should be more Asian eyes shape, but cannot do it without looking weird. There's a lot of different shapes for the eyes, but in general, it follows this rule right here. You have a few planes. So you have a top plane. You have two side planes for the top, and then you have kind of two planes usually that goes for the bottom. So if you can remember that, it's going to help you a lot, because then after that, you can just kind of make these lines just a little bit curvy, and you'll have a good shape, and then you'll be able to add kind of the tear duct and whatever iris size that you want, and then, well, yeah, there you go. If you have what you call an Asian eye, is when it's it's called an epicandic fold, I believe. I can never pronounce it correctly. It's just the way their eyelid is folded. And it's not just Asian. I think there's a huge part also in Russia. I think they have it because of different countries that immigrated there. But anyhow, all that to say that at that point, all you have to do is probably just to erase the fold. So they have their fold that it's kind of closer to their eyelid. So they're missing that fold, and if you're just not putting that fold, usually it's going to help. There's also like a kind of a fold in the corner that happens there. It takes a little bit of practice. That's all there is. As long as you understand, there is a good class about the anatomy of the eye in the DPA if you're interested. And we'll talk more about the DPA on Sunday for the rest. But that's, in a nutshell, that's 1, 2, and 3 fold, and then edges, and then 2 at the bottom. That's how you can just help you construct the eye, especially if they turn. Let me give you another example here. If you have a ball, which I love to start with a ball these days, just to understand, because the eyelid really wraps around the sphere of your eye, right? So if you have your iris, let's see here, you'll be able to kind of have the perspective. So you have like the top plane, like I was saying. The side plane here goes around your eye here, and then you have the other one that kind of turns here, and then you have kind of one plane, more or less one plane and 2 planes. And just kind of imagining this like this, it's also help you with like the thickness and understanding the perspective. You'll have like the thickness of the eyelid here. There's a thickness here that you have to draw, kind of thing. So that's super interesting. There's a really cool exercises about the eye in the anatomy class inside the DPA as well, to just help you with this exercise in particular. Understanding on a sphere will really help you. So yeah, so that's for that. Where were we? Scrolling. I want to say hi to everybody that joined late, guys. You'll be able to see the replay if you're interested into all the tips that I had here. Anna says, how do you get the planes right when it comes to curly hair? I found it type of hair quite chaotic. Should you focus on planes and most loops? Yeah. Okay, cool. It's a great question. I think everything can be really transformed into planes. Let me find some space here. When it comes to curve of any hair, you want to think about it like being a ribbon. So, if you have just a flat piece of ribbon, it looks like this. But if you start like curling it and kind of having it like fold on itself, you start to kind of have like some cool shapes, basically. You want to think about it this way. So when it curls, you kind of think about it like, all right, so there's a curl here, and then that comes into it, and then that curl. So you have like lots of, is it overlay? Not really, but like you have this, where you have a line that goes on top of each other to express basically volume into it. Now you can definitely do this, but this is going to be a lot of work. I think my preferred way, if you have curly hair, will be to focus later on when you do the rendering on light and shadow. It's actually much easier to apply light and shadow in a brushy way and then add details at the right places. The previous one-week portrait I was showing actually the technique. This one that we have this here, it's actually straight hair. You won't have much of it, but really it's still what I would say. Just focus on light and shadow when you're going to put the colors, because otherwise you'll have to like just paint every locks of hair, and it gets complicated at that point. You can definitely do it if you want to, but it's more difficult. All right, you guys, I'm going to take 2 more questions. I'm sorry if I didn't take your questions, guys. I'm just going to, I'm going from order. Alface says, I tried Liquify to edit my work, but it only made it more distorted. What brush best goes with Liquify? I'm on Procreate, I'm already imported. It's not really a brush. I guess you can use different brushes on Procreate. I'm not quite sure. I know that in Photoshop, it's just soft round brush or hard edge brush. That's all you have. And it's a question of like pushing at the right places. So it's not really about the brush, it's about the settings. If you have a lot of sensitivity and you're brushing and it goes real fast and it distorts things, take out some of the sensitivity of your brush to make sure that when you brush it, you have more control with it. It's all about this. Just take your time, push things slowly. It's a tool that's going to take you a few times to actually master. So it's normal if it looks a little bit distorted. What I suggest for you is always make a copy of your artwork before you go in Liquify. So if you have a hard time with it, you can just go back to where you were, basically. Question from Jasco. I started wondering how much of the Lumi's head you actually incorporated into normal workflow. It's helpful, but naturally it actually lengthened my sketching process. It might take you a little bit of time at the beginning, but I use it quite a bit, to be honest. I just have a simplified version of it. So I don't do the entire side, the face, and then all of that construction. These days, what I usually do is I just do a circle and I do my first kind of 2 lines to establish my eyes. From there, I can put maybe this one for like the forehead, but then from there, I start building my geometric shapes, my eyes, and I actually do quite a bit of construction when I actually like do it right now. I like to have that construction line because it just helps me to kind of not be all stiff. There's some people that are really good at sketching. I'm actually not one of them. I think my sketching skills are getting better, but I would not consider myself the best at sketching. I have a very shaky hand. And so having a construction line really helps me to guide, especially if I do things from imagination. From observation, I would probably put a little bit less line maybe, but it's really up to you. If you feel like it's slowing you down, you don't have to do it completely. Just do a few lines, maybe try with like the circle, the line of the eyebrow, and see how many lines do you need to actually start. You don't need to have all of them. Great question. All right, it's 3 minutes to 11, so I'll take another 3 minutes, guys. I'll see if there's more questions. Nanny says, draw a smaller box to represent curl and put ribbon in it with curls. I think silhouettes matter the most. Okay, I thought it was a question, but that's a comment. That's a good comment. Bianca, can you tell me more about the program and the steps before? I just got here because YouTube recommended it. Well, hi, Bianca. Happy that you're here with us. If you want, there is a link in the description to the challenge. You'll be able to register all week long. And basically, we have 3 phases. We are finishing the first phase today, Tuesday. Tomorrow we're starting rendering. So this first phase was sketching. Tomorrow we're starting rendering, and after that we are doing details. And the idea is it's called the 1 week portrait challenge. We are doing 1 portrait into only 7 days, the entire week basically. So that's the whole idea of it. So you can go check it out. It's absolutely free. And yeah, I'm doing lives like this today, another one on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Ramshi says thank you for Paintable team, and that's cool. Thanks. You guys are absolutely welcome. And thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I don't know, like for some of you guys, maybe you're like at work right now, but whatever you are, thank you so much for being there. All right, I reached the end, so awesome. So thank you so much, guys, for being there with me. I'll see you on Thursday. Keep posting. Remember, you have an entire year at the DPA to win, as well as amazing Huion tablet as prizes. Let me actually go back to showing you my face in big while I say bye. There we go. Got a big face now. So amazing prices. So keep on posting, guys. In Instagram, be sure to put the 1 week portrait. 1 week portrait. Yes. So 1 week portrait. That's the hashtag. You can put 1 week portrait challenge if you want, but it won't count. But it's always nice. But the 1 week portrait. That's all you have to do. Hashtag 1 week portrait. This way we can see all the entries on Instagram. And if you are in the tribe on Discord, simply posting it into the right channel, the 1 week portrait channel, is plenty. You only have to do this. For us, and we'll pick up the winners at the end of the week. I'm super excited. And so, yeah, Don't forget, last reminder that don't forget to reserve or put on your calendar for Sunday, the live. I'll have different tips this time, how to manage your time. I think it's one of those topics that we don't talk much, but really, if you want to get better, as I'm assuming everybody that's here with me wants to get better, you'll need to just make sometimes miracle with the time available to you. Sometimes people work full times, they have other commitments, and so the few hours that you have, I want to make sure that you can really progress as much as possible and as fast as possible with them. So that's what I'll be talking about on Sunday. And with all that being said, thank you so much, guys, for being there. I love doing this event. We're doing it usually once or twice a year, and it's always a ton of pleasure. So thank you for being there. Thank you for sharing. I'll see you all on Thursday and in the tribe. Have a good one. Happy painting, guys.